In the year 1958, a fire broke out in a records warehouse in New York City, and within a few hours, millions of pages of accumulated human memory turned to ash and smoke. It wasn't the first time. Centuries earlier, libraries across the ancient world had gone up in flames, and entire civilizations lost decades of accumulated thought in a single afternoon. Every time this happened, humanity learned the same brutal lesson. Knowledge is only as permanent as the material it's written on, and for nearly 2,000 years, that material has been a thin, fragile sheet made from pulverized plant fiber that we call paper. It seems almost laughable that something so flimsy, something you can tear with your bare hands, became one of the most powerful inventions in human history. But paper didn't just record civilization. In many ways, it built civilization, carried it across continents, and decided which ideas would survive and which would disappear forever. To understand how something this ordinary became this powerful, you have to go back to China. Sometime around the year 105 CE, during the Han Dynasty, according to traditional accounts, a court official named Cai Lun, who worked in the imperial workshops, presented the emperor with a new material made from mulberry bark, hemp fibers, old rags, and discarded fishing nets, all mashed into a pulp, suspended in water, and then strained through a mold until a thin mat of fiber remained. Once it dried, it became a flat, light, writable surface, unlike anything that had existed before. Historians now believe paper-making techniques may have existed in China even earlier, in scattered and primitive forms. But Cai Lun is remembered as the man who refined the process and made it practical enough to spread. In his hometown of Luiyang, in Hunan province, there is still a shrine dedicated to him today, and local memory treats him less like a bureaucrat and more like a quiet revolutionary who changed how humans thought. Before paper, the ancient world relied on materials that were either incredibly expensive or incredibly impractical. Egyptians used papyrus, woven from reed stalks along the Nile, but papyrus tended to crack in dry climates and rot in humid ones, and it didn't grow outside Egypt's narrow river valley. Mesopotamians pressed their words into wet clay tablets, which were durable but heavy and almost impossible to mass-produce or transport in volume. Wealthy societies in the Mediterranean and Middle East used parchment, made from stretched and scraped animal skin. But producing a single large book of parchment could require the hides of an entire flock of sheep or goats, putting books permanently out of reach for ordinary people. Paper solved nearly every one of these problems at once. It was light. It was cheap to produce once you had the raw materials. It could be manufactured in nearly any climate, and it could be made in enormous quantities, something none of its predecessors could do. For roughly 600 years, China guarded the secret of papermaking the way other empires guarded gold or weapons technology. The knowledge spread slowly through East Asia, carried by monks, traders, and diplomats, reaching Korea and then Japan by around the early 7th century, where Buddhist monasteries adopted it almost immediately for religious texts. But the rest of the world remained almost entirely unaware that this material even existed. That changed because of a war most people have never heard of. In the year 751 CE, near the Talas River, in what is now Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, the armies of the Tang Dynasty clashed with the forces of the Abbasid Caliphate. The battle itself ended in a Tang defeat, but its true historical impact had almost nothing to do with territory. Among the prisoners taken by the Abbasids were Chinese artisans, and some of them, according to multiple historical accounts, knew the secret of papermaking. They were brought to Samarkand, a city along the Silk Road, where the technique took root in Islamic territory for the very first time. Within a few decades, Samarkand had become one of the first paper-producing centers outside of East Asia, and the knowledge began moving westward through trade networks at an astonishing pace. By the late 8th century, papermaking had reached Baghdad, the intellectual capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, home to the House of Wisdom, where scholars translated and preserved Greek, Persian, and Indian texts on an enormous scale. Paper made that explosion of scholarship financially possible. Parchment had always been too costly to use for casual scholarly work, copying, or large libraries. Paper changed the math entirely. Suddenly, a translator could draft, revise, discard, and rewrite a manuscript multiple times without bankrupting an institution. Historians often point to this period as one of the most overlooked engines behind what is sometimes called the Islamic Golden Age, and very few people realize that the foundation of all that intellectual output was a cheap sheet of pulped fiber. From Baghdad, paper continued its journey west, moving through Damascus, Cairo, and eventually into Islamic Spain. One of the earliest documented paper mills in Europe was established in Zátiva, in the region of Valencia, sometime in the 11th century, under Islamic rule on the Iberian Peninsula. From there, the knowledge slowly bled into Christian Europe. Although it took centuries before paper became widely accepted, European monasteries initially distrusted paper, considering it inferior to the parchment they had relied on for sacred texts, and some religious authorities even associated it with foreign or infidel origins. It wasn't until the city of Fabriano in central Italy developed major paper mills in the 13th century that European paper production began to seriously scale. Fabriano introduced technical refinements like the watermark, a faint design pressed into the paper during production, partly used to identify the mill and partly to prove authenticity, a security measure not unlike anti-counterfeiting technology used on currency today. Even with all these advances, paper had a hidden limitation that most people never think about. For more than 1,000 years, paper was made almost exclusively from cotton and linen rags, the scraps of old clothing and fabric. This meant the paper industry was directly tied to the textile industry, and as demand for books, documents, and printed material grew across Europe, a strange and very real crisis emerged: a shortage of rags. By the 18th century, paper mills in England, France, and the American colonies were desperately competing for used cloth, sending collectors door to door to gather rags from households. And some governments even passed laws regulating the burial of the dead in cloth, partly to preserve material for paper production. It sounds almost absurd today, but for a long stretch of history, the price and availability of paper were tied directly to how much old clothing society could scrape together. This rag shortage might have permanently limited how widespread paper could become, if not for a breakthrough in the 1840s. Around the same time, a German inventor named Friedrich Gottlob Keller and a Nova Scotian inventor named Charles Fenerty independently developed methods to produce paper pulp directly from wood fiber rather than rags. The process was refined further over the following decades, and it changed everything. Wood was abundant. Wood didn't require collecting scraps from millions of households. For the first time in history, paper production was no longer bottlenecked by clothing waste, and the cost of paper began collapsing dramatically. This single technical shift is part of why the 19th century saw such an explosion in newspapers, cheap novels, pamphlets, and eventually mass public education, because for the first time in human history, printed material became genuinely affordable for ordinary working people, not just the wealthy or the clergy. But every transformative material carries a hidden cost, and paper's price has always been paid by something most people never connect to a blank sheet sitting on a desk. The shift to wood pulp triggered a different kind of consequence: forests. As paper consumption surged across Europe and North America through the 19th and 20th centuries, entire regions were logged specifically to feed pulp mills, transforming landscapes in places like the northeastern United States, Scandinavia, and later, Canada's boreal forests. Pulp and paper mills also became notorious sources of industrial pollution, releasing chemical waste into rivers near mill towns, a problem that environmental regulations only began seriously addressing in the latter half of the 20th century. There's something almost poetic and uncomfortable about it. A material designed to preserve human memory and knowledge was, for over a century, quietly degrading the natural world that produced it. There's also a less discussed human cost buried in paper's history. Early industrial paper mills, like many factories of the period, employed child laborers in harsh and often dangerous conditions, particularly in Britain and parts of the United States during the early Industrial Revolution. Workers handled corrosive bleaching chemicals with minimal protection, and the physical toll of mill labor was significant long before modern labor protections existed. None of this gets mentioned when people talk about the printing press changing the world. But the chain of human effort behind every page in every printed book includes this less glamorous reality. Paper's influence on history goes far beyond books and literacy, though that alone would be enormous. Paper currency, first developed in China centuries before it appeared in Europe's, fundamentally altered how economies functioned, replacing heavy metal coinage with something lightweight that could represent value across enormous distances. Paper made modern bureaucracy possible, allowing governments to track populations, property, taxes, and laws at a scale that would have been unmanageable with clay or parchment. It made the printing press itself meaningful, without an abundant, cheap surface to print on. Johannes Gutenberg's printing press, developed in Mainz, Germany, in the 1440s, would have remained an interesting mechanical novelty rather than the engine of the Reformation, the scientific revolution, and the eventual spread of mass literacy across Europe. The printing press gets the historical credit, but paper is the quiet partner that made every single page of every single printed book physically possible. And here is where the story takes one of its strangest turns. The same material that helped build empires of knowledge eventually became the symbol of waste, clutter, and excess. Offices today still joke about being buried in paperwork, even though most institutions have shifted toward digital systems. Environmental movements through the late 20th century turned paper conservation into a household value, with phrases like "save a tree" becoming common cultural shorthand, even as global paper consumption, particularly for packaging and shipping materials, has continued rising in different forms. The material that once made information rare and precious enough to risk wars over became so abundant that we now associate it with disposability, recycling bins, and digital alternatives meant to replace it entirely. There's a deep irony sitting at the center of paper's legacy. For most of human history, the struggle was creating enough paper to preserve knowledge. Today, in the digital age, paper has become almost a relic, while the new struggle is preserving knowledge that exists only in fragile digital formats, vulnerable to corrupted hard drives, outdated software, and disappearing platforms. Archivists and historians have started raising real concerns that some digital records from just 20 or 30 years ago may already be unreadable, trapped on formats no modern device can access, while handwritten paper documents from 1,000 years ago, stored carefully in places like the libraries of Cairo or the monasteries of Europe, remain perfectly legible today. The material many consider outdated may, in some strange way, end up outlasting the technology that replaced it. To most people walking through a stationery aisle or tossing a receipt into the trash, paper is just paper. An unremarkable, disposable convenience barely worth a second thought. But trace its path backward far enough, and it runs through prisoners captured after a battle near a river in Central Asia, through scholars in Baghdad translating the accumulated wisdom of 3 continents, through Italian artisans pressing watermarks into wet pulp, through desperate rag collectors knocking on doors across 18th century Europe, and through forests cut down to keep the presses running. It carried religious texts, scientific discoveries, revolutionary pamphlets, and the first drafts of declarations that reshaped nations. It is, quite literally, one of the only materials in human history that managed to outlive nearly every civilization that ever produced it. So the next time you hold a piece of paper, whether it's a receipt, a letter, or the page of an old book, it's worth remembering that this thin, unremarkable sheet is one of the few inventions that didn't just describe human history. It carried it forward, page by page, for almost 2,000 years. What ordinary object do you think changed the world the most? Let us know what you think deserves the next deep dive.